Good morning, everybody. Good to vach. Welcome back to the second week. Thank you for coming. The first few days are exciting. Now you're underway. It's like who's actually showing up on the fourth day. Baruch Hashem, you guys are here, and we're gonna get rolling with Perek Dalid of Beseches Brachos, Mishnayos. Really good stuff here today. Okay, so the last three parakim were talking about Kriya Shema, and now we're moving on. Now we're moving on to Tefillah. Starts off Mishnah Aleph, Perek Daled, Mishnah Aleph. Tefillas HaShachar ad Chatzos. You could daven Shachris until Chatzos, till midday. Maybe Huda Omer ad Arba Shos. Huda says until you could daven until the fourth hour from sunrise. Shalosh Manios, where the day is divided, every day is divided into 12 hours, and every night is divided into 12 hours. So some of those hours range in how many minutes each hour is, because there's more daylight in the summertime than there is in the wintertime, and vice versa for darkness. Some Shalosh Manios are 75 minutes in the summertime, 80 minutes sometimes. In the wintertime, they're 40 minutes. But there's always 12 hours of every day and 12 hours of every night. So you have to be aware what those shows money are, because we're not talking about 60-minute hours. Tfilas hamincha ad ha'erev. So mincha doesn't say when it starts, but someone starts after Chatzos and it goes until evening. What's evening? Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad Plaga Mincha. Plaga Mincha is classified is classified as halfway through the Mincha period, which is 1.25 hours before the end of the day, which again it shows manios. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, that was the deadline for the Korban Tamid. Korban Tamid could not be brought after Plaga Mincha in the Beis Hamikdash. And Tvias Erev Ein La Kevin. Mariv has no set time. To go the whole night until the morning. Interesting, because we said in Perek Aleph that Kriya Shema had to be until Chatzos, and that whatever the Chachamim said until the kosher kol halayla had to be done until Chatzos. So I wonder what the rule is over here. You're saying to this Mariv in Lakeva, does that mean that goes until Rosh Shachar? Does that supersede what they said in Perek Aleph about the Chatzos? I'm not sure. Maybe. V'shal Musaf and Kol Hayom, and Musaf can be recited the entire day because the Korban Musaf was able to be brought any time of day. Mistama, it had to be brought before the Korban Tamid. So if you can't bring the Korban Tamid after Plaga Mincha, according to Rabbi Yehuda, and I'm not really sure how you can bring the Korban Musaf after that time. Also, the Gemara talks about whether or not a Yochid can daven Musaf I think they bring down that if there's a tzibur in town who is davening Musaf at the tzibur, then the Yachid does not daven Musaf by himself. But if he's in a remote area and there's no minyan, then he would daven Musaf. I think that's what the Gemara says. Rabbi Yehuda Omer ad Sheva Shas. Rabbi Yehuda says you can only recite Musaf until the end of the 7th hour because, like you said before, the Musaf offering had to be done within the first 7 hours and had to be done before the Korban Mincha, the Korban Tamid Shabbat Abayim. Okay, Mishnah Beis. Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana, I am espalab fikli saso the Beis Hamedrash. Rabbi Yitzie Tzedek Sarah. Rabbi Nechunya ben Akana. Whenever he went into daven, when he went into the Beis Medrash to learn, he would daven a short tefillah going into the Beis Medrash and a short tefillah when he came out of the basement. Sometimes in some Gemaras you'll see these printed in the on the inside cover page in some Gemaras. Amrlo, Ma Malcolm Zu. What's the nature? They asked him, what's the nature of this tefillah? Clearly, it's not from the Esrei. So what are you doing over here? Amr Lahem, Bechnisasi Ani Mispala Shalo Te'ara Te'era Takala Al Yadi. He said to them, when I enter the base medrash, I pray that no harm will come to others because of me. Meaning that he prays that they praying that they rule the proper ruling, that was us, was us, was mutter, was tar, was tame, and that they give proper rulings so that they don't come to giving wrong piskei halach, which ultimately hurt people in the process. And Ubitziyasi ani saying Udaya al Chalki. And when I leave, I give thanks to Hashem for my chilik, that He placed me among those people who were learning Torah in the base medrash. He could have been done. He could have been doing many other things with his time, and he had the chus to learn the base medrash with the other Tanaim of his generation. Oh, and that's a tremendous chus. I can only imagine what it looked like to learn it in the base medrash with the Tanaim and Amoraim in the times of the Mishnah Gemara. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll find out when Mashiach comes. Welcome to the base medrash with Moshe Rabbeinu, with the Nevi'im and the Zakanim, and welcome to all about the Midrashos after Mashiach comes and see what we missed out on all these years. Mishnah Gimel, Rabbi Gamliel Omer B'chol Yom Ispalo Adosh Shmona Esrei. Rabbi Gamliel, again the Nasi of the Dar, he said that every day a person should daven 18 brachos. Shmona Esrei. We have 19 in our Shmona Esrei. That was instituted later, but Gamliel says you cannot recite a short version under any circumstances. Rabbi Yeshua says he disagrees. He says he can recite the short version of Shmona Esrei if it's hard for him to concentrate. So the short version that we're talking about here is Havinenu, where it has the first three brachos as standard, it has the last three brachos as standard, and the middle section, which are the bakashos, are condensed into a short paragraph called Havinenu, and it encompasses different halakim from each of the middle brachos, and it ends up with Brachata Hashem Shemei Tefillah. Then you continue the last two brachos of recite and modim and viter. That was under present circumstances. I don't think we use that Havinenu nowadays. Maybe we should. I'm not a posik. Rabbi Akiva says, you should do it to us a befiv, Yispal Shmona Esrei. If his prayer is fluent in his mouth, he must recite the complete Shmona Esrei. And in law, but if it's not familiar to him, he cannot concentrate on the meaning of the words. Shmona Esrei, then he can say the Havinenu Tefillah, and be Yotze his Tefillah for the day. I really wonder the halacha, like so much traveling, and he doesn't have the time to say a full Shmona Esrei before getting on a plane or wherever he is. Can we use the Havinenu? I'm not sure what the poskim say about that. That's an interesting shot to ask. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, I haven't seen that done anywhere, so I don't think we possible like that, but it's a shot to ask. You certainly wouldn't use Havinenu for a Tefillah B'tzibur. The question is if you use it privately when you're in a Shas Atchak. Again, ask a posik. That's not me. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Mishnah Dalet. Eliezer says, someone who makes his tefillah into a fixed obligation, like it's more like a burden to him, like he has to go down. I gotta go down. I gotta take care. Then and then his prayer is not a sincere prayer for mercy. He needs to, when you're going into tefillah, you're supposed to mispal to Hashem to help you with whatever you need help with, and it has to be a real heartfelt tefillah, which is very hard to do in most days of the year. That's something that's really going on in a person's life where he needs rachmanis, to do that 3 times a day or 4 times sometimes is very, very difficult. But what Eliezer is saying is that someone who considers his tefillah to be a burden, and he's not mechadish his tefillah every time, according to him, his tefillah is not going to be helpful. They say that come Elul and Yom Naram, that when it comes that people see the most bracha right after Yom Kippur. If you go to Yom Kippur, they're in shul, and it's one of the most sincere days for one of the greatest days for sincere tefillah, and people will daven with all their heart and all their soul during the Yom Naram, especially during Yom Kippur, especially during the Eilat Yom Kippur, and that all the tefillahs that are stuck in the pipes that didn't make the cut to go up to the Shemayim throughout the year get pushed open after the Eilat or during the Eilat and get accepted on high because they got their tikkun. It definitely avoid it. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Hamahalis Berachos Sakan Spala to the Sarah. Rabbi Yeshua says he says that if someone is traveling in a dangerous place, he recites a short prayer. This is a different prayer than Havinenu. Then he says, Omer Hosha Hashem is Amcha Esheris Yisrael B'chol Parshas Iber Yitzri Tzarchim Lefanecha Berchat Hashem Shemea Tefillah. He says, God, save your nation, the remnant of Israel, because after every challenge that we've been through throughout Klai, we lost more and more people. So we have the remnants of Klai, so this is what's left of us. In all situations, even when they are turning away from you in sin, even when they're sinning against you, may their needs be revealed before you, so you have Rahmanas in it. We're davening for someone, even when he's off the derech and he's doing Chataim, he should still have protection from a Baruch Hu, and he should have Rahmanas on it. Rechat Hashem, Shamea Tefillah. Blessed are you, Hashem, who here's tefillah. I mean, one of the funny jokes that I heard around my time, there was once a story about a guy who was a ganav, and he's robbing a bank, or he's robbing a jewelry store, like some big project that he's taking care of, and right when he's about to go into the bank and rob the bank, he downs a tefillah to a Kadosh Baruch Hu or a tzlacha in his success of robbing the bank. And you think about this, but this sounds totally ludicrous. Like how you davening to Hashem to help you to do something that is that's totally awesome. You're robbing, you're stealing, you're breaking things, you're causing damage. That's breaking things. How is that even possible? And no, that's what we're saying over here. That even the person who's sinning, that Hashem shall Rahmanas on him, and answer his tefillas. That's a plea, but that's what we're saying over here. Haya rochev al hachamor. So now we're talking about which direction to face when you're damaged from the esrog. Haya rochev al hachamor. Someone's riding on a donkey, and it's time to daven. Yevid. He has to get down from the donkey, and like tie it up, or have someone hold it down for him, and he should daven while facing Yerushalayim. Now we know that if you're outside Eretz Yisrael, you're supposed to face Eretz Yisrael. So if you're in America, you face east, and if you're in Russia or that part of the world, you face west, and if you're in the south, you face north. You're always facing Eretz Yisrael. And when you're in Eretz Yisrael, you face Yerushalayim. When you're in Yerushalayim, you face the base of Migdash or the Har HaBayis. By the Har HaBayis, you face the Kachi Kachi. And there are all these different levels. Because the point is that we want all the tefillahs to go toward a central location and go up to Shemayim through the Kachi Kachi. So now this guy is riding on a donkey. He has to get off his donkey, or in our case, get off a bus or get out of the car and daven while standing and facing Yerushalayim. But he cannot get down from the donkey and pray with kavanah. There's nowhere to park the donkey, or there's nowhere to pull over on the side of the road. It's in the middle of rush hour traffic. It's bumper to bumper. Yachshir es panav. He should stop the donkey and turn his face toward Yerushalayim. But if he cannot turn his face to Yerushalayim, then he should direct his thoughts toward the Kachi Kachi. Wherever he is, he has to have kavanah to that his tefillah should go toward the Kachi Kachi, even if he's not facing that direction. I saw yesterday, I forget where I saw it. I thought it was in Orach Chaim, but it's not the Orach Chaim. It was one of the other things of learning over Shabbos, that when Avram Avinu in Parashas Vayira he saddles up his donkey to go to the Akedah with Yitzchak and Eliezer and Ishmael, and you see no mention of the donkey whatsoever after he saddles it up. And then he tells Eliezer and Ishmael to sit here with the donkey while he and Yitzchak go to do the avodah. So what's going on over here? What was the purpose of bringing the donkey? You don't even know that they brought the donkey. They shot the donkey. There's very little about that. And the sefer that I was reading said that the chamor is not just a donkey, but it's also relating to the materialism. And when we get so wrapped up in materialism, we need to sort of separate from that in order to do the avodah properly. And it was no coincidence that I read that right before I was preparing this Perek, that someone is riding ala chamor. Someone is very involved with the materialism of this world. He has to get off. He has to take a moment, step aside from the materialism, step out of the business meeting, step out of whatever Gashmi's involvement that he's involved with right now, and he has to focus his mind toward Yerushalayim, toward the Kachi Kachim, toward the Ruchnius, in order to daven properly. Because if he's davening in the middle of whatever materialistic thing he's working on, whether it's business or pleasure or anything else, his tefillah is not going to be the best tefillah in the world. The machshavah to add to the Mishnah. Haya Mishnah Vav. Haya Yosheb Sfina or Karon or Asta. If someone is traveling on a boat, Sfina is a boat, Karon is a wagon, and Asta is a raft, and he cannot stand or even turn his head in the right direction, then he has to have kavanah to go toward the kachi kachi. Okay. And the lesson for today, Rabbi Lezer ben Azariah Omer, Ein Tfilas HaMusaf Ela B'Chaver. So we mentioned this by Mishnah Aleph, that there's no obligation to daven Musaf except by the tzibur of the town, because the korban Musaf was not a korban yachid. It was a korban for the tzibur. So therefore, it doesn't apply to someone who is davening alone, because yachid are being a korban Musaf. It was a tzibur they could do. But the Chachamim say, they argue with it, Bechever ir, or Shalom Bechever ir. It must be recited not only by the tzibur, but anyone who prays alone, even without the tzibur. But the third opinion says, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishmo, If you just said it in the name of Elazar ben Azariah, because they're arguing about what the Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah said. Any place where there is a tzibur, hayachid pater b'tzulas Musaf. So he said at the beginning of this year that a individual is exempt from davening Musaf because the tzibur is davening on behalf of everybody. But in a place where there's no tzibur, then each person is obligated to daven Musaf by themselves. That is, have a wonderful day.